if I'm not working in alignment with this mission that I have in my heart, then it's just not, it's going to fall flat. It's going to remain good on paper.
Exactly.
It's going to be like a cool multi-six-figure coaching business. But if I want to wake up society and let them run naked down the street, to use your example, that's what I want for everybody. Like the people who desire wildness, I want them to have it. The people who desire peace and tranquility, I want them to have it. The people who desire love, I want them to have it, right? But if I'm out doing some shit that seems like it'll sell, right, it's not going to happen.
Get around those obstacles and make room to create opportunities. You are listening to the Around the Way podcast. And now, your hosts, Kyle King and Kiana Williams.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are here with Miss Sales Swagger, with some swagger herself. How are you, Lauren?
I am good, feeling swaggy. Thank you for having me.
For sure. So before we get into the weeds and talk about all these amazing things that you're doing, could you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are at the core, and how you're changing lives?
I mean, where do you begin? I love that question, and it always makes me a little bit nervous because I'm like, where do I begin? I mean, the first time I met Kyle, he said, I have a lot to tell you about myself, but I'm a man of God and I'm a father. And so I want to start with that too. My purpose on this earth is to activate people to move toward their goals. There's a lot of more complicated ways I could say that. I'm trained as a life coach. I've been doing this for 5 years. I morphed into a business coach during that time. But really what I want to do is help you find that swagger, as Kyle said. And not just when it comes to sales or business, but really with anything that you want to accomplish, it requires that swagger. And I'm really obsessed with this word. I make jokes that I want to change my website to say swagger coach. I really just want to walk around and be like, where's your swaggy swag? But the truth is, swagger is simply freedom from fear of failure. It's not that like Rico Suave. It's not like the way you dress or the way you sound. It's the freedom to act. So when you have swagger, you're not held back. So think about if you want to talk to an attractive person at a bar, or you want to start a business, or you want to ask for that promotion. The reason you don't do those things is simply fear.
Literally.
So if you can find a way to get past that fear, that's swagger in my opinion. Acting, knowing that it's going to be okay, you might fail, you might be all right, but you can do it.
This is good. You know, it's so interesting that you started with that because I have so many questions. But before we even get to, I guess, where we are now in this belief in this new definition of swagger, walk me, I guess, what it took for you to become this person that you are now.
Oh, it's such a good question because I wasn't always this way. And I'll tell you what, it's a daily practice. I don't have swagger 24/7. I don't wake up every day feeling fly, feeling confident. I have to work on it. It's a constant, I almost said battle, but it's a constant practice. But I'll tell you what, it was when I started taking those bold, unconventional actions that I began to trust myself to do it over and over again. So the first big, bold, unconventional action I ever took was actually escaping my corporate job. So this was about 5 years ago. I decided to start my side hustle as a life coach, which at the time was a really scary proposition because I had a good on paper bank job, upwardly mobile, made enough money, all the things. When I actually took that big, scary leap to start my business is when I was like, oh, okay, I can actually break out of the mold that was set for me. You know, I went to college, I went to corporate, I came up in management. And when I decided to break the mold in this very first way, I realized how much possibility was out there for me. So I side hustled for about 2.5 years, which was a crazy period. I worked on the trading floor of a global bank. And in the middle of side hustling and working my ass off at work, I found out I was pregnant unexpectedly with baby number 2. So that's another thing where I was like, if I can make it through this, I can make it through anything. So had the baby, came back from maternity leave, again, worked my butt off, and was able to exit corporate after about 2.5 years of side hustling. And here I am out in the wild of entrepreneurship. Terrified. Not swaggy, right? Exactly. I was literally looking in the mirror being like, what have I done? But I kept going. And that's all I can say. Like when I said swagger is the fear of, or the freedom from fear of failing, failing was not an option. So whether I was doing a really good job, I don't know. I was probably doing a terrible job those first few months out of corporate, but I didn't quit. And with every few months that I kept going, more and more opportunities kept coming up, more and more miracles kept happening. I surprised myself with how much crap I could get through. It was hard, it was terrifying, but I kept going. And I think that's where the swagger comes from. It's just simply doing more hard stuff.
I like what you said about you surprised yourself. It's interesting because it's like I have these conversations with myself, literally, actually with myself, often where it's like you do something or you produce and it's like, wow, like I can actually do this, or wow, this is really, really good. And I don't know if it's overcoming a self-belief of, hey, you didn't think that you could do this well, or you didn't think that you could bring in this amount of clients, or you didn't think that you could produce this. But I guess that my question is, what would be your one technique or strategy for someone that battles with self-limiting beliefs, that doesn't have that swagger yet, that hasn't activated themselves or really haven't really advanced themselves forward to meet their goals? What's that one strategy that you would help them identify within themselves so that they can get just one step closer?
I actually have a little method for this. It's called Swagger Camp.
There it is.
And it's a 3-step method, and it does have a curse word, so I will not say the curse word, but it goes like this.
Good.
Let it fly? Okay. It's a little 3-step process that I developed over the years, and it's get your mind right, get your shit tight, and know you'll be all right. And I've taught this as a corporate workshop, and yeah, I dropped the curse word in the corporate workshop. I've done Instagram lives about this, but the first thing you've got to do is simply get your mind right. Sometimes when we're facing down a really big goal, we build it up in our mind to be extremely hard and difficult, right? I got to get in shape. That's going to take me 9 months. And I'm going to have to, beat myself up at the gym and never eat cake, and this is going to suck. And if you build it up in your mind as something huge and difficult and arduous, then you're not going to want to approach it at all. But if you say, okay, I'm going to get my mind right. I don't have to do this the hard way. What if it were easy? What if I literally could get in shape by taking a walk today? What if I could still eat cake? What if I just had to take care of my body for 20 additional minutes? That will actually get you from stuck to unstuck. When you break it down and say to yourself, this isn't a mountain to climb, I just have to take 3 steps. And then another mind trick is to remind yourself, you are fit for this battle, right? You've been through stuff. Going to the gym today is not the hardest thing you've ever been through.
Not at all.
You are totally capable of doing this, right?
Like, I would really hope not.
I know, but the mental gymnastics that we do,
Talk to me about that. Mental gymnastics. I like that.
Oh, man. We all do it. I do it too, right? If I have a goal in front of me, I'm like, I'm going for this. Balls to the wall. I'm doing it. And then a few hours later, I'm like, I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, no, I hate that I'm procrastinating. I'm actually going to do it now. Yeah, but I need higher energy. I'm going to go meditate first. And like, you're literally bouncing from committed to uncommitted to committed to uncommitted. And don't we do this all the time?
No, literally all the time.
All the time with food, right? I did it yesterday. I was like, I'm going to eat clean. And then all day long, I was like, my friends are coming over and we're ordering pizza. No, I'm not going to have pizza. Yes, I'm going to have pizza. No, I'm not going to have pizza. Well, guess what I did last night? I had the damn pizza. And I wish I would have just said that's what I'm doing and not had the mental gymnastics all day long. Why
do people beat themselves up so much when they, still choose to make that decision?
It's a good question because we wouldn't beat our friends up that hard. You know what I mean? We treat ourselves totally different than we treat the ones we love. And it's really not a big deal.
It's interesting that you say that because we treat ourselves differently than the ones that we love. But does that really show that we love ourselves?
Right.
Or do we? So what would be your, one piece of advice to better love yourself?
You have to start by declaring that you do and making that choice to prioritize yourself energetically. So think about it. We pray for other people. We take care of other people. We compliment other people. We forgive other people. But we don't grant ourselves even a fraction of that. And I don't know why not. So anything we do in life is a conscious choice. And anything we do starts with a decision to say, I'm going to do this differently. So if any of your listeners right now are like, how do I begin to love myself? I would say, look in the mirror in your left eyeball and say, I love you.
Literally.
I love you. Because you're worth it. And I cannot tell you how much. I always mispronounce this. There is an exercise called Ho'oponopono. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
It's an amazing meditation technique where you do look yourself in the mirror in the left eyeball and say, forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you say these things to yourself so that you can actually begin to cultivate self-love.
And feel it.
And they've done this exercise. I butchered it a little bit. There's actually 4 phrases. I forget what all 4 of them are. But when you do this, they did a study in a prison where they had all of the inmates actually do the Ho'oponopono exercise by staring in the mirror at their left eye and loving and forgiving themselves. And crime and violence went down in that prison dramatically.
Wow. Wow. So what is something, I have so many questions and so many ways that I could take this. Before we even go there, who is Lauren? Take away sales swagger, take away all the business, take away all the clients, the titles, the accomplishments. Who are you?
Whew, it's hitting me in the gut. I know I was meant to put on this earth to activate people. You're going to make me cry a little bit.
That's okay.
You know, I've toyed around with my business and my career and all the trainings I've done and what am I best at? And I am just the world's best hype woman. And I used to beat myself up because I didn't feel like enough of a thing to build a business off of. You know, I've got to have trainings and I've got to have processes and I've got to have XYZ in place. But I can get people to go from stuck, defeated, feeling like they can't do the thing, to looking in the mirror and being like, oh, I can do this thing. And some of the things they're saying yes to are wild. They're big, quote unquote, impossible goals. And so it is funny you asked this. I'm reminded back to when I did coach training. So I did a year of coach training in New York City in 2016. That's how I kicked off this whole coaching thing. Mm. And we did an exercise to basically uncover your purpose. And it's kind of like the 7 layers of why, like why this, then why this, then why this. And then when you get to the word that sticks, that's what your purpose is. And mine was humanity. Mm. Because it almost makes me nervous to say this out loud, but I feel in my bones I have a really important gift to give humanity. Doesn't, you know, it sounds a little arrogant to say that, but I think we all do.
Define that in your terms.
The gift to humanity? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's helping people realize their potential. My core fear in life is leaving life on the table. This is going to sound really morbid and messed up, but one of my fears is being on my deathbed and being like, damn, you could have done so much more for humanity.
I love what you just said. I think that there's some, my shout out to Tim Buick. He says something all the time, like this is something that sticks to your ribs. And what you just said is just beautiful. It really is. But I want to challenge it just really quickly.
Yeah.
If you didn't accomplish that, and if you left life on the table, what does that mean to you?
You've brought up a question about worthiness, right? Are you still worthy without accomplishments? Yeah. Because you're right. I built my life around service and this figuring out my gift to humanity and deploying it as much as I possibly can. I don't even claim to have that figured out. But you're right. What if we reach the end of life and I'm like, oh, I didn't do all the things I set out to do? Yeah. Will I still feel worthy? And I think that's the pursuit. I mean, that's the pursuit, right? That's the spiritual path that a lot of us are finding ourselves on, which is not what makes me worthy, but how do I realize that I'm already worthy?
Do you?
I don't know. I think I'm working on it.
I love the honesty.
I think I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said one of your gifts is you're the best hype woman. Mm-hmm. Tell me about a time in your life where you needed hyping, but that person wasn't there.
Oh, the person wasn't there. I was about to tee up examples where people hyped me up and it made the thing happen.
I think a lot of times, and why I say that, just to preface it a little bit, I think a lot of times we become what we lacked as kids or what we lacked in our lives. You know, the parent, like I'm now an amazing dad. Now, I had an amazing dad. There's either 2 ways that you could do life. Either you become a mirror of what you've experienced, or you become the opposite of what you've experienced so that you don't have to experience that anymore. Or maybe you just become a product of your circumstance. So 3 ways. Yeah. But I think a lot of times when we have this hyper focus on doing something, when we reflect back in our lives, there was something lacking most times. Yeah. In that specific area. So when was the last time that maybe you needed support from a person or from, you know, an opportunity or a company, whatever, but you weren't supported or you weren't hyped up, or when was that?
This is probably really deep. I didn't expect the conversation to go this way, which is why it's beautiful. I can't think of a time where I really needed support and didn't get it, because that's something that I take care to do. I happen to marry an extremely supportive husband. Like, he's my hype guy. And, you know, my friends, and I attract a certain type of people. We all hype each other up, right? But what you said about going back to your childhood is what is interesting me. So Either you become the opposite of what you were raised with, or you mirror what you were raised with. And mine is a weird blend of both. And I'll tell you why. I was raised in a very idyllic, like upper middle class suburb of Columbus, Ohio. At the end of a cul-de-sac in a brick house, 2 amazing parents, like younger sister, nuclear family. I went to college, all the things that you could have hoped for. So in some ways, I began to mirror that life. I went to college, I went to business school, got a job at the bank, began to move up in management with a career that looked a lot like my dad's, to be honest. And then I realized that even though my parents gave me the most ideal upbringing I could ever imagine, I wanted more wildness. I wanted more freedom. So I live in an upper middle class suburb, raising my 2 kids a very similar way that I was raised. But there's something that I want to create that I didn't have in my childhood, which is like wild adventures.
And why is that important to you?
It's just my core value.
Or when did that realization come? Like walk me through that time where you were like, I need more.
Yeah, I had the great quintessential life breakdown of 2015 is what I call it. So that's when I decided to get off the hamster wheel of rising up in bank management and doing something different, but God knows what. I had no clue what it was. I had a literal life breakdown. I got fired from my job. I devolved into a drinking problem. My husband and I were hanging on by a thread. I had 1 small daughter at the time, and it was just jacked up. Like everything, I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. And that's when I hired that first life coach out of pure desperation. Pure desperation. I was like, I hope this woman can help me figure out what I'm doing with my life. It was either her or a therapist, and I ended up with that. And it was through those deep questions that we life coaches do that I began to uncover, I actually do want more freedom, more wildness, more richness, more, I don't know, I want to eat all the foods and visit all the places and meet all the people and feel all the things that I haven't let myself feel, in these 30-some years of life.
This is good. This is good. So just to kind of recap, right? So you grew up upper middle class family.
Yeah.
You had certain privileges. You kind of you made all the right decisions. You went to school. You went to college. You had this great job. But then life shook you up in 2015.
Yep.
Now we're in 2021, and you've built this mega business. And you're now, the hype woman for so many other people and companies and industries. Walk me through the process, I guess. Oh, there's so much. From 2015 to 2021. I want to really hyper-focus on that. What would you, if that was a title of a book, what would the chapter or what would the title of that book be?
Oh, my God. You're good at this, by the way. I'm saying and thinking things I've never said and thought before. The authenticity breakthrough. Because I will tell you what, literally you just pulled this out of me. It's wild. When I started my coaching business, it was cool. It was a breakthrough, right? It was different from my corporate job. But you know what? I was still kind of approaching it the same. I was building I started out as a life coach, and then I was like, I'm going to call myself an executive coach. And I was coaching executives that were much like my coworkers and bosses. And I wore a business suit. And Kyle, you're getting to know me. Like, I have a very filthy sailor mouth. I didn't use any of it. I was very, proper, polished, right? And I would go in and do these workshops and, make sure that they thought I was legit. And it was in 2019 that I went to a retreat with my own coach. And I was like, this whole thing sucks. Yeah, I'm making money. Yeah, I'm successful. Yeah, so I'm getting on planes and flying around the country, and that makes me feel important. The same way my old corporate job made me feel important. But this isn't who I am. And it's not that this isn't worthy of being focused on, but I did not really care about executive coaching. I did not really care about helping people inside the matrix navigate the matrix better. Not to say that's not a worthy pursuit. Executive coaching is an important field. It just wasn't me. Where's the wildness, right? Where's the adventure? I actually want to help people break out.
Exactly.
And so it was at that retreat where I won't say the full word, but we all, 6 of us women in the room were like, F corporate. Not that there's anything wrong with corporate. I was just being corporate, and it wasn't me. I have a big old freak flag, and I'd never let it out. So I had this successful, good on paper business that was just like my good on paper, successful corporate job. And it was at that retreat that I was like, never again.
And that was in 2019. So now we're in 2021.
So yeah, about 2 years ago.
So if you think about those 2-year period, because we're breaking it down even more.
Yeah.
If you think about that 2-year period, what would be the steps that you took? Step-by-step process from 2019 when you had this authenticity breakthrough to be able to get you to where you're at now. What are the steps?
Yeah, I think I started baby steps, like you were saying at the beginning of this recording. Like, how do you break down a mountain? The first couple of steps were just being a little more freaky on social media, right? So dropping in some of my colorful language and saying things that, oh gosh forbid this is on LinkedIn. What would somebody think if I said, hell on LinkedIn or whatever? And I started to realize that nobody burned me at the stake. Nobody fired me. I did that corporate workshop, Swagger Camp, that said, get your mind right, get your shit tight, no, you'll be all right. That was a breakthrough. Because I, of course, showed up on my banker lady dress. But I'm like, I'm going to say the S word in this workshop. Is it all going to be okay? And it was okay. And so I just began to peek it out a little bit more and a little bit more. And people responded. People like authenticity. People like real.
So walk me through the process when people started to like that. How did that make you feel? And how did that give you a sense of just, like, I don't know, it just activated more inside of you to keep going?
It felt like coming home a little bit because I could be myself for the first time and know that people would accept me, which was always the case. I just couldn't see it.
Exactly.
I was trying to be perfect and trying to be polished. And it was attracting some people and it was going okay. But there's a small slice of people who love this stuff. They love, colorful language and funny, dirty innuendos. Like, they love all that stuff. Not everybody does. So, Kyle, what happened was a polarization. And they teach this in marketing, right? You want to attract your people and repel the rest.
Exactly.
But the idea of repelling the rest is terrifying, right? Because you
really
don't want to turn people off.
Exactly.
You don't want to offend them. You don't want to, lose potential customers because you said a silly, dirty joke. But once you can get right with, like, there are some people that are meant for you. And there are some people who are meant to have another guide. That's not me. Once you can get right with that, it is an exercise in worthiness, right? Like, I'm worthy even if these people don't like me. And I'm worthy and ready to serve the people that do.
I love that. I have a question that may shake things up a little bit.
Oh, God. Okay.
What are some things that, because I believe that you're a very reflective person. You do a lot of work internally. But what is one thing that you see about yourself that no one else sees that you don't often talk about?
Good or bad?
Wherever you want to start.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. What's something that I see about myself that others don't see? Well, it's funny. I talked about this on a recent episode of my own podcast, Grab Life by the Goals. I've somehow given people the impression on social media that I have my shit together, that I'm organized and killing it and crushing it and everything's looking good. And I made a joke to one of my friends the other day. I was like, if y'all only knew the hot mess behind the scenes, you would laugh. And they were like, I don't believe you. I said, oh my gosh, are you serious? I am not an organized person. I'm not a disciplined person. I'm not a focused person.
Really?
No. Yeah, right? See your reaction? No. I'm certain I have some form of undiagnosed ADHD. Like, it's bad, right? But people don't see that. And I'm on a mission now to be more vulnerable about this. Like, look, if you feel like you're not successful because you're not organized or you're not disciplined or you don't wake up at 4:45 every day, it doesn't mean you can't be successful. Success can come through so many channels. So many channels of your being and your body. Like, I know people who don't work a consistent schedule, but they have strokes of brilliance once or twice a week that makes them all the money they ever need to make.
No, literally.
In fact, my own coach is that way. She's like, I don't hustle. I don't prospect 2 hours a day. She says, I get my mind right and I do a single extremely inspired Facebook Live and I sell out my programs. And she's not kidding, because I've seen these Facebook Lives and I'm like, oh my God, it's so inspired. And I'm like, my body is having sensations listening to her. That's all it takes for her. It's not effort. It's inspiration and alignment.
Exactly. I have another question to kind of follow up that question. I think that social media specifically creates narratives on there that everybody's successful, everybody's happy, everybody has, like you said, their shit together. But often we feel pressure to continue to keep going in a lane that is no longer suiting us. Do you feel pressure to continue to keep pushing forward? Or if you had the choice to do something and be someone else, would you be someone else? Take that as a yes.
Oh my God. I love this, Kyle. This is so cool. Even I'm out of my comfort zone right now, which means we're in the right place. Okay. Yeah. I would literally just call myself a swagger coach.
Wow.
I really would. And I've got all kinds of fears about that. Would anybody take that seriously? Would anybody hire a swagger coach? How do you monetize that? What's the package? What's the program? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I've channeled this gift into programs, right? I have Slay Your Side Hustle. Find the swagger to start your business, and here's the system. Sales swagger. Find the swagger to raise your prices and create a scalable offer and hire people and like take it to the next level. But what if you don't have a business? What if you are just a human being who needs the swagger to revive a relationship? Right? Or stand up for yourself at work, or actually choose to value yourself and take care of your body. That stuff takes swagger, right? Remember the freedom from fear of failing? It applies universally. So that's what I would do. I would literally become a swagger coach. I would change my website to say that. And that's why I started my podcast this year. It's called Grab Life by the Goals, and it's not business specific. It really is all about just how to be more swaggy in life. But yeah, that's what I would do. And I would have retreats, and I would fly people around the world, and they would just leave on fire, and they would go back and do shit they didn't think they previously could.
What's stopping you, Lauren? You're that hype person for so many people. Why don't you have the hype to make this happen?
This is something my clients go through a lot as well. I'm going through it. You've got a business in motion. And I don't want to shut it down. I love all this stuff. What got me out of my hamster wheel was starting a business. So it's an incredible disruption point. I want to keep teaching people that. I want to keep teaching people sales swagger. But it's figuring out how to package this for everybody. How do you create something for everybody? So the podcast was like a messy baby step.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I'm going to start a podcast. Anybody can listen to it and get inspired. People are asking me to do retreats. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a retreat in Charlotte in Q3. Right? What's next? Is it a YouTube channel? I don't know. It's still unfolding. And that's what's crazy about going out of the corporate world to this entrepreneurial world. You have complete freedom. The good, bad, and ugly of it. You know what I mean? I could do all the stuff you just said. But yeah, I think there might be some limiting beliefs that it has to be perfect or that it has to be ready for public consumption.
That makes sense. We're going to go on a commercial. We are back from commercial break, and we're still here with Lauren. How are you feeling right now?
I'm good. We're going deep. Like I said, a little uncomfortable, but
which is good.
I appreciate this.
I feel like comfortability is your only way of being able to grow forward. I think every time that I've been comfortable in doing something, even in comfortable conversations, I don't feel like it helps you expand your mind or your perspectives.
Right.
So I believe sometimes, and anybody listening, how can you focus in right now and having an uncomfortable conversation or an uncomfortable feeling or an uncomfortable experience that pushes you forward at least one step, those baby steps like Lauren has been talking about, towards your goal, right? So I have a question for you. If no one could judge you, if no one could judge you for something, what would you do? Who would you be? If you weren't judged?
A stand-up comedian.
Wow. Tell me more.
That's my fantasy.
Tell me more.
I dream.
Can we get a joke? You got one?
Yeah, I probably need some training. I need some training. I dream of being a traveling food writer with a comedic angle.
Oh my God.
Like, I want to fly around the world and eat all the weirdest foods you've ever seen and just make like crazy ass jokes about it and just have it be a very addictive like YouTube channel. That's that wild, passionate adventure that I'm seeking.
You've talked a lot about this wild, passionate adventure. What is the most, you know the question, what's the most wild adventure personally that you've experienced? What was it? What was it like, and how did it make you feel?
I mean, that's kind of the problem. Like, nothing is really coming to mind.
Wow.
And that's kind of, not depressing, but that's kind of like, okay, Lauren, it's time to walk the walk, right? You activate people to do impossible goals. So my story is, I've got this business that keeps me very busy. And I've got these two beautiful kids with very busy, soccer and gymnastics schedules and all the things that they do. And if only I could pick up and go somewhere for a month, I would. But it just doesn't fit into the life that I've created. So I have a wonderful friend, Michael Blunt. I interviewed him recently. He lived in New York City, and when COVID hit, he was like, nope. And he moved to Tulum, Mexico with his partner. And I'm like, God, I'm so envious of that. I know they literally lived in Brooklyn, and then they just up and moved to Tulum. and they live on the beach, and they both run their businesses from an Airbnb, and I'm seething with envy over this.
That's amazing.
I know. I'm like, so I looked at my husband. I was like, any shot in hell that anything like this could happen? He's like, well, I don't know. The kids are in school. Would you pull the kids out of school? You know, he works at the bank. He'd have to quit his job, you know. So we're, I guess you could say, a little locked into the lifestyle. This is a bullshit limiting story, but like we're locked into a certain situation that doesn't.
No, Lauren, I'm not going to let you get out this one.
No, I know. I'm a life coach. I hear myself.
Locked into the lifestyle. I feel like there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people right now that are in relationships that they're not happy because they're locked into the lifestyle, so they won't leave. Right. There's a lot of people that are running businesses that no longer fulfill them, but they need the money. There's a lot of people that are inspiring people but aren't feeling inspired because they're locked into the feeling on being on stage, but they know this isn't purpose work anymore.
Right.
You're locked into this lifestyle. What's more important, Lauren, your lifestyle or your legacy?
It's your legacy.
Walk me through the process of being able to ensure that when Lauren lays down, in 120 years, of course, for the last time, that the legacy outweighed the lifestyle.
There's a couple things to look at. The first is you don't need to up and move to Tulum.
No, not that way.
That's a limiting belief that I'm contending with, right? Like, I can get wild right here in Charlotte. I could strap on a halter top and go uptown and have some cocktails. Like, I could totally do that, right? My husband and I could take all kinds of trips. Just the two of us. We could travel with the girls. Like, we're not locked into anything. And my dream, and it's actually in progress. This is not just my dream. This is my plan that is actually happening, is to retire my husband from corporate and build our real estate portfolio to the point where it's enough passive income where we can live in Italy for a month should we choose to do that. So that's the plan that we're actually executing toward as we speak. But, you know, I'd love it to happen faster.
No, literally.
Uh-huh.
Let me know when you figure that formula out, and I'm there.
Here's what it is.
I'm signing up for that course.
Increase revenue in my business to a certain amount per month, and then get our real estate income, our cash flows, to replace his salary.
That makes sense.
And then we good. Like,
that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're almost there. Anybody out here that needs some sales swagger, go buy her course right now so we can increase this revenue. We need to increase the revenue. And you said something earlier. This has been such a great conversation, but you said something earlier specifically. In 2015, when you started to go through your challenging times, when you began to activate your ability to be authentic and break through, you said you started asking yourselves those hard questions, right? You said you began to ask yourself those hard questions that started to create answers that made you redesign your whole life, in a sense. And that's what we focus on in this podcast, you know, getting around your obstacles to be able to redesign your life. But what you just said right now is these answers that you're trying to be able to create, you know, revenue, all these different things that you don't need. You don't have the question. It's kind of just a matter of, you know, being able to make it happen, in a sense. But I do have a different question. What is a question that you have the answer to, but nobody asks you? I feel like you're somebody that helps everyone else, but people don't see Lauren for who she truly is at the core.
Yeah.
What's the question that you would like people to ask you, but either you're serving them or they're serving themselves?
Right. I would like people to ask me how to be fulfilled regardless of money, which sounds the opposite of what I teach. I teach how to make more money, and it works. The system works very effectively. But I'm having this breakthrough for myself this year that even my own happiness, like with every new revenue milestone I reach, I'm like, yeah, I did it. Cool. I'm important. I have a successful business. But is that revenue resulting in more happiness? Not always. Not always. I mean, I've been able to channel some of that revenue into freedom and impact and hiring and creating jobs, and like that's really cool.
Exactly.
But what if there was no revenue? What I really want to teach, well, what I want to figure out and thus teach people is how to separate feeling successful from money. I think that's sales swagger.
It's fulfillment.
Yeah.
And it's challenging to think of it because now people would probably challenge and say, well, you need money to survive.
Right.
or you need money to live, or you need money to do all these different things. But I believe that there's a way. I think even if we bring it back to children, I grew up a very simple life. I didn't really need much. I didn't have an iPhone back then. You know, we didn't have gaming systems. It's kind of like we just went out as kids and we just had a good time. Mm-hmm. If you think about kids, they're fulfilled. They're happy. They're just exploring life, and they don't have anything. Now, obviously, they have parents that probably take care of them. But just imagine if we could be able to live life naked or live life free, in a sense. It's this concept that I have. Like when I was like 2 or 3 years ago, before my grandmother passed, we were walking on the beach, and you know, I knew something was going on with her, long story short. And I kept asking her over and over what was going on. She didn't say anything. So we were walking on Jersey City Beach, and I ended up just acting like I was tying my shoe. My parents were like 10 or 15 steps in front of me. And then my grandmother kept walking, and then I literally stripped naked, and I ran down. This is that wildlife, so we have a lot in common. We could talk offline about it. So I ran down the beach. Mind you, it's not even the middle of the summer. It was cold as hell out there. So I ran down the beach butt naked on Jersey, the middle of the day, but at that. And I turn around and I look at her, and she's smiling, and she's cracking up. And in my mind, kind of looking back to look forward, that's why I did it. Just to see her smile. And it's a lot of people that are not willing to expose their dreams. There's a lot of people that aren't willing to take that risk. There's a lot of people that aren't willing to live life naked because they're trapped in society or this lifestyle or this idea of what success is.
Right.
Instead of just living life free. Mm-hmm. Even when we are naked, right, the first thing that we're trying to do is cover up. That's the first thing. And even if we go to scripture, the first thing, once they realize that, it's shame. They were trying to cover up.
Yeah.
So if we were able to live life free and being able to understand that revenue and fulfillment are two completely different things, and I have been happiest throughout my life, even when I didn't have revenue coming in, because I was able to be grateful and selfless and understand like why I'm here, and it's bigger than just, you know, making some money off the top, right? Yeah. So I do have a question to come around to wrap all of that around. The overall goal of this season, in season 2, is seasons. What would you say that your season is right now that you're in? How would you define that? Oh,
it's massive expansion. I am investing in myself in ways I never have before, mainly spiritually. So the first thing that came to mind was my team, right? I'm investing in hiring people, investing in systems, growing the business. Like, we're scaling like crazy. This is year 6. It's on. But the key to doing that is not business shit. It's getting myself spiritually aligned with the mission. I'm super clear about that now, that if I'm not working in alignment with everything we've been talking about right here, if I'm not working in alignment with this mission that I have in my heart, then it's just not, it's going to fall flat. It's going to remain good on paper.
Exactly.
It's going to be like a cool multi-6-figure coaching business. But if I want to wake up society and let them run naked down the street, to use your example, that's what I want for everybody. Like, the people who desire wildness, I want them to have it. The people who desire peace and tranquility, I want them to have it. The people who desire love, I want them to have it, right? But if I'm out doing some shit that seems like it'll sell, right, it's not going to happen. And so I've got to do this crazy inner work and, like, deal with my childhood, deal with the shadows, deal with, you know, all the limiting beliefs in my head, reprogram my brain with neuro-linguistic programming. Like, this is the key to everything for me.
So just to kind of expand on that.
Yeah.
The goal of what we're doing here, and it's interesting because when we were offline, you're like, no one's really asked you these questions before. The goal is to pull the curtain back behind who you are as the brand, as the business, to be able to really see the actual, hey, I'm a human being before any of this. And that's why I said, you know, before I talk about revenue or business or my success, I'm a person, I'm a father, and I'm a believer, you know? So when you think about what you just said, like dealing with things in your childhood, all of these different things, what is one thing that you are dealing with that no one knows, that you don't have an answer to?
Whew, okay. I'm dealing with a wellness battle. I really don't feel well. I'm going to start crying. I really don't feel physically well most of the time, which is funny because if you've ever met me, I'm kind of like a normal size, like, so you wouldn't guess it was a weight issue. And like, I kind of bounced around with a lot of energy, so you wouldn't guess it was, you know, a mental issue. But like, I physically don't feel well. I have some disordered eating patterns. Like, I don't sleep well. I'm addicted to caffeine. I've had a fickle relationship with alcohol. You know what I mean? So like, for all of them, I'm getting a little emotional. You can hear it in my voice. For all the business success that I can claim, I have not cracked this. I have not cracked this wellness battle, and you only have one body, and I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I don't know why I can't just like stick to a healthy, clean diet and go binge on this and drink this. Like, I don't know why I can't crack this code. And I've tried hiring health coaches and I've tried a few things, but without your, how can you vibrate high enough to serve if you don't feel well? You know what I mean?
That's deep. I thank you for sharing that.
It's crazy because
really.
I do talk about this in my social media, like, take care of yourself, and I try, but like, I don't have this figured out.
Wow. I have one. This may not be the last question, but just following that question.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we are needed by the world, we're never given an opportunity to fulfill the needs within ourselves. Mm-hmm. What do you need?
Definitely some rest. The business keeps me very busy. And what we teach in Sales Swagger is not to burn out. And so every single week, at the end of the week, I'm like, I got to recover, can't burn out, got to recover. So I'm trying very hard to practice what I preach. And it's true. Like, we do have methods of doing things that burn you out less, right? Like, raise your prices so you don't have as many clients. Like, exactly. That works. But I need to figure out how to build rest and recovery in every single day. And that actually is, if you go a layer deeper, the reason I don't rest and recover is I've got a bullshit belief that if I'm not working, the business will stop.
Wow. Why?
Because if I don't hustle hard enough.
Where does that belief come from?
It might be like all the programming of like hustle equals success, not working equals laziness. And if I don't give this business my all, then I am a failure.
This has been such an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that the curtain has been pulled.
Yeah, I feel very naked running down the boardwalk.
Which is good. And I have one like really final question for you.
Yeah.
You know, anybody that's still listening, like, Lauren is an absolute gem. Amazing mother, wife, person in our community that's not just helping people build businesses, but helping people literally change their lives. And I appreciate you for that. If you could leave one piece of advice to your two daughters, what would it be?
Oh, God, Kyle. It would be something in the realm of, like, it's okay to run naked. It's okay. You don't have to be anything but who you are. And even I'm still working on that, right? Like, as this podcast has revealed. But, I mean, they are brilliant little girls. Like, they're so smart and so cool. And you can, especially now in today's age, you can be successful at anything. Whatever you want to do. My oldest daughter wants to be a cheerleading coach. And so, because she's in competitive cheerleading. And my husband and I are like, dream bigger, girl. Like, own the gym. Create a series of gyms. Create online training programs. Like, we got you. You can do this. And so I bring her in my office, and she, you know, we did a batch content creation day at my house on Friday. And she watched and did, like, set direction. And it was cool. But, yeah, it would just be, don't waste your life doing anything that doesn't feel right to you. You don't have to.
I think so many times, as a father to a 5-year-old now, one of the biggest things is, I was asked a question years ago, and it was like, if you could have 10 things in life, like, what would those things be? Like, anything. And my number one was for my kids to be proud of me. Like, for all of my children, however many children I end up having, to be proud of the father that I was, the man that I was, the husband that I was to their mother, or just the man that I was in the community. If today was your last day, would your kids be proud?
They would be proud. They would be proud. But I would be devastated for some of the memories and experiences that might be left on the table. there have been moments where I've prioritized work and the business over my family, right? Like, I get so entrenched in, always did with my career and with this business. And there are times where at the end of the workday, like, it's time to play with the kids, and I'm like, Mommy just needs a minute, like, go watch TV. I'm gonna, like, make dinner. Whew. And that's kind of the opposite energy I would, like, that would be what I'd be devastated about at the end. If today was my last day, I would say, I'm sorry for all of those nights that I was so tired.
Anybody listening right now?
Oh my God, Kyle.
Anybody listening right now, I want you to ask yourself that. I think one thing that COVID has taught us is time is relevant. Mm-hmm. Everything that we do as entrepreneurs and business owners and as leaders is in our minds for our children and for the next generation. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to leave you with not a question, but a statement. I want you to remember why you go so hard.
Yeah.
And as hard as Lauren is and hyping other people I'm going to hype you up to continue to be that amazing mother that we know you are. And they would be proud. And I don't want you to beat yourself up because of those hard nights. Mm-hmm. They see the journey. They see the work ethic. They see the commitment.
Yeah.
And you've instilled something in them that you don't even recognize. All of our audience, we are here with Lauren, the GOAT in the building, the absolutely amazing person that is still going through her authenticity breakthrough. Mm-hmm. I think this conversation has been amazing, absolutely amazing. I thank you for joining us. Could you tell everybody where to find you?
Yes, right after I thank you for having me. I did not expect it to go this way, but I'm glad it did. Yeah. I'm super uncomfortable. I'm super scared of what some of my potential clients will think, like, oh, I thought she had her shit together, but she's working through it too. So thank you for being part of the authenticity breakthrough. I'll never forget this conversation. This is part of it. So thank you. All right. Whew. Okay, let me collect myself. Where you can find me, I would start with Instagram. So my handle is @LaurenWidrick. And you'll see that I call myself a side hustle and sales coach. Maybe I'll update it to swagger coach after this conversation. But I love helping you find the swagger to disrupt. So all the stuff that I'm going through, you want to go through it with me? Let's do this together, right? Let's get you out of the status quo and into something that lights you up. That is all I'm working on here. I've made some breakthroughs. There's more to come. Let's get yours going too. I think I start on Instagram. My website's laurenwidrick.com. I have a program coming up if you are an entrepreneur. It's called Sales Swagger. And it is about how to dramatically increase your revenue with this inner work, to be honest with you. I got sales tactics. There's 9 training modules. You will learn how to do the sales things. Trust me. But what you'll really get more than that is this confidence, this swagger, and a squad of people who love you and are all going through it together. Because these breakthroughs and these transformations can be lonely. You can think you're crazy, right? When you're doubting yourself, when the sale didn't go through, when you raise your price and some asshole said no and you want to take it back down, being around a squad of people to support you is what can make all the difference. And so let us be your squad mates.
Definitely. Anybody listening right now, join the squad. I'm going to be a part of the squad. I am a part of the squad. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we want you to take the small steps. We want you to get your mind right first. We want you to really invest in yourself. We want you to be able to get your shit tight, like everything. Anything that's falling out of balance, anything that's not necessarily how you would want it to be, get it together. Understand, ask yourself, what do I really want my life to look like? If today was my last day, what would I want it to look like? What legacy would I want to live or leave? Excuse me. And then we want you to recognize and understand that everything's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Everything's going to be fine. You taking that extra hour of sleep, it's going to be okay. You eating that extra fry or that extra slice of pizza, it's not going to end your life. But what will end your life is you not investing in it, you not believing in it, and you not seeing the value and the worth of why God put you on this earth. This is Around the Way podcast, and we'll see you guys next episode.